up now. We're good to go there. All right. Welcome to For Glory Series number 7. I'm YoshnJa, your MC and commentator for this evening's match. It has been a while, folks, but I am excited to finally be back with you all showcasing a best of 3 All-Stars match. For tonight, we have, from the spectator point of view, as the blue team and the game's host, DoggoK, and we also have on the red team, and as the match's host, King. Before you guys say anything, I just want to make sure that this is coming through because I've always had a lot of issues. Discord wasn't act funny. Give you 2 seconds. All right, you guys say hello real quick if y'all want it.
Hey there.
There you go.
Bada.
Perfect. It is coming in very nice and smooth, and you guys appreciate that. So yeah, it's been a while, folks. I'm really glad to have this happen tonight, though. We're going to be doing a best of 3 series of the 4v4 All-Stars format. It's been, I think, the last 4v4 All-Stars was back in series 3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a minute since we've showcased it. So before we get into the before we get into the match, rather, let's actually go over the format just to kind of briefly remind everyone of how the format plays. Alright, so with 4v4 All-Stars, All-Stars is our unique characters only format. It is similar to Standard in that you have the same freedom to team build within its limits. However, both players can only deploy 4 units instead of the usual 5. The All-Star roster consists of 28 uniques, with 18 from the Standard pool, and then there's 10 additional heroes and villains that were found throughout the Final Fantasy Tactics story. Both players will share a pool of 40 actions. All those actions will matter because as we draw closer to the 40th mark, each player shares that action pool, so the decisions they make will definitely impact how the game will flow. As well as there being a 13-minute chess-like clock that will run during each of their unit turns and will pause during an action. Once that clock reaches 0, they will have 20 seconds per turn to fully make their plays, and if they do not, that unit's turn will immediately come to an end. Now, once we get through Game 1, the loser of Game 1 will decide Game 2's map, which can either be a small or medium map, but keep in mind that All-Stars has its own tailored map pool, so most of the maps that you'll see are from Standard. There's also a select few that are specific to All-Stars that you all will be able to select as we go into Game 2. And this is purely meant for smaller scale and fast-paced warfare, since we are using 4 characters on both sides. Now, with all that being said, King and Doggo were both talking to me earlier. They're ready to get this going, so let's actually get straight to that. I'll be back with you all momentarily to set up Game 1, which will be on Araguay Woods. Give me about 5 minutes while we do roster verification. I'll be back with you all shortly. Alright, and we are starting game 1 on Araguay Woods. We are watching from DoggoK's perspective as blue team versus red team's king. Alright, speaking of which, hopping on board here with Doggo's first turn. Going to do a unit check on his opponent's team, which is always ideal. Going to make sure you know what you're getting into before you start the match. You know you have 13 minutes, still take like the first 30 seconds and kind of just get a nice glance of what weaknesses or defensiveness those units have, so that we kind of know who you want to be careful, like how you want to pick and how you want to strategize against the upcoming battles. Now, both players brought some really interesting and potentially hard-hitting units, so I'm really curious how this is going to play out. I think there might be kind of like a slow start here, because getting those buffs out is going to be really vital. But I could be wrong. Might end up seeing a lot of aggression real early. Alright, looks like Doggo's going to go ahead and commit to a Dragon's Might there on Izlude. It's going to give him an additional speed, 5 brave, 1 magic, and 1 power. Think of it kind of like a ally targetable shout. And it looks like it's going to end Jane's turn, Reyes. And we're swapping over now to King's Elmdor. Alright, looks like Elmdor is going to go ahead and end his action conserving CT, and going to swap over to Izlude. This is going to follow up with a focus there, and gaining additional power, speed, and magic there as well. Now, one thing I want to highlight here is that with the mod, you're able to rename your uniques and your generic characters. So I'm probably going to reference a lot of these characters by their base name, because it's honestly easier to reference them, especially with having like these unique characters in the game. But I do want to highlight that for Izlude, for King's Izlude, his name is actually Admiral Drake, and for the acting Mustadio, it's Sir Tristan. Like, Sir Tristan's going to wipe out his Stagia there. And for King's Elmdor, his name is Old Man Rayleigh. And now we're hopping back over to Izlude on Doggo's team. Who else is going by George? Doggo was telling me earlier that his team has a little bit of a thematic feel to it. If you can guess the units' names here, you probably pick up on it, but that's George. Reyes' name is Jane, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll kind of go more and more into detail later. It looks like he's thinking about doing a jump there on that charging Mustadio. That's going to do more damage if he can connect it beforehand, because of him being in charge status, and physical damage does 50% more damage to those who are charging. Alright, and now we're shifting over to Ramza, who is named Elroy. Alright, looks like Elroy's going to go ahead and do a Tailwind. Get that additional speed up there. Probably could have went the shout route if he's going to go for the self-cast, but either way, that additional speed is always a bonus. And now we're switching over to Judy, aka Alma. YouTube chat, Zeph saying now that War of the Visions is dead, I may have to pick up FFT. Yeah, for sure. Come on back. This game has withstood the test of time at this point, so always good to have people who are coming back into the game. Let the Jumble connect and get that extra damage there on the chargings. Good stuff there by Doggo. And the Aegis will land on Jane, getting that sweet, sweet, amazing re-raise haste and refreshing protect shell and regen as well. Now keep in mind that Alma, even though she is in the back row, she does not have protected shell, excuse me. So I'm hoping that Doggo will reinforce that a little bit later, but for now she seems to be, for the most part, pretty safe and not touchable by King's squad. Alright. King's gonna go ahead and charge up a cure on the stack. That should get Mustadio just to back up to full, if not fully, because he does have that increased faith. Yep. That will stave off all that damage. So good counterplay there by King. The Sage will now connect on the 4. Should get everybody their haste. Nice. Very nice play there by King. Covered the damage he took earlier from the jump, and also got his team faster speed. Now keep in mind, haste and the mod is only 25% more of your speed, not 50% in the original game, as a means for balance. So even though it's a little less effective speed to your game, that still does matter when it comes to the race at CT to 100. So that haste will play a role here, even if it's not as impactful as it was in the original game. Alright, looks like King's going to go ahead and charge it towards Izlude. Going for the Ama no Murakamo, the Cloud Sea Curse. Excellent 3 or 4 damage hit there. Izlude's ward reaction will trigger. It's going to refresh his Protect Shell and gain region. So Doggo's looking at his options here. Arts of War might work, but keep in mind Elmdor does have a shield here, so that's going to cut down some of that effectiveness on the Ren skills. Looks like Doggo's just kind of weighing on the options that he has currently. Now this Reyes is running dual wield, so she can land at least one of those Ren speeds. That'd be nice. Sadly, Elmdor will dodge both attacks. Unfortunate there, but good play there by Doggo, trying to get that speed down. That would have been a potential -4 speed on Elmdor. That would have been, that would have hurt a lot, honestly, even with haste being up, because there's not as much speed for it to work with as much. But either way, good play there by Doggo to try to connect there. All right, and we got a double parry there with Doggo's Izlude. Izlude versus Izlude. That's what I like to see. Weapon blocks working their finest. Parry is innate in the mod, so your weapon's block rate always is there, regardless if you have parry. Parry isn't even a thing anymore, but parry is always active, so it's really cool to see those really like up-close battles and see those weapon blocks go off. Let's see how King responds to all these blocks and all these things that's coming in. This Mustadio variant, Sir Tristan, I believe, is a samurai, so he has Iaido and Time Magics on the secondary. So he's got pretty decent amount of options there. He's not up close for Iaido, but he is going to go ahead for the Instacast Gravity. It's good, 198, almost bruiser damage there. That ward will refresh again, keeping that Protect Shell and region up. Izlude is pretty injured here, but he has plenty of plays he can make. Now, King's Izlude is actually a Onion Knight, so you gotta be super careful there because those weapon counters will hurt a lot being up close like that. It might not be a bad idea for Doggo to look at doing something like Sanguine Sword and getting some of his HP back, as doing something like Abyssal Blade will recoil damage, and it should honestly KO Izlude from the recoil, so I think he might just be assessing his damage, but it may not be the play right now with him having so much injury from the previous attacks. Looks like he might be committed to it. He's definitely going in and out looking at Abyssal Blade. Alright, looks like he's going for it. Alright, that will KO Izlude there. It takes a 318, does a little over 200 in damage total. Oh, excuse me, a little over 450 in damage total there. I think we're just waiting for the spell quote on King's End to finish. Hopefully we didn't get disconnected, but we'll see. It looks like we might have a disconnect because I'm not seeing a timer move. 1 second. Hopefully that's not the case. Yep. Looks like we had a disconnect. That is unfortunate there. Let me go ahead and pull these guys back on. Alright, Doggo, you are unmuted, and King, you are unmuted. Alright, looks like we had a DC there, sadly.
Unfortunate.
That is unfortunate there. I think we've had... Okay, so prior to DC, it was 4-4 going into it. 1 second. Alright, so since we did have 4 units alive prior to disconnect, we'll go ahead and do a draw here. So that means that we'll have to move to game 2. Give me 1 second while I check the regulations for that resolution. One sec. Alright, so since game 1 will be considered a draw, what we'll do is, based on regulation, if there is a tie game on game 1, then the guests will decide game 2's map. So I'll go ahead and label game 1 as a draw here, so that means the King, you do get to pick the map for game 2. If you want to go ahead and look at the All-Stars map pool while I finish that up real quick.
Okay.
Okay, and let me know whenever you're ready what map you would like to play for game 2. Medium or small?
The Limberry Undercroft?
Yeah, that'll work if you want to do that one.
Okay.
Alright, Limberry Castle Undercroft. Keep in mind, for both of you, the spawns are relatively close, so there might be very fast engagement. Let me go ahead and make a note of that real quick on my end. Alright, got it. Alright, if you guys want to go ahead and proceed to connect real quick, viewers, I'll be back with you all momentarily as we do roster verification for game 2. Just keep in mind, Doggo and King, since this is game 2, normal rules apply where you're able to swap your reserves if you think you need to do so. But for the meantime, viewers, I'll go and put you guys on downtime. I'll be back with you all in about 5 minutes. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start game 2 a little early since I already got the roster verifications checked. And because we did have the early DC, so that we can get straight into game 2. Okay, and King has decided to start this game on Limberry Castle Undercroft. Keep in mind the spawns here is very up close, so this is actually really important because you could technically aggress really quick here depending on how your team comp is set up, but if you can't aggress hard enough, then you could get counter-aggressed and lose very quickly as much, so definitely wise to really figure that out before you really get into it, because I've seen situations like where people will try to do something like that and then they pretty much lose right away because of that, so it isn't always worth aggressing early on. But the opportunity is there, so keep that in mind. There was no team change here for Doggo. King did swap out his Elmdor for Valmafra this go around. Very good there for Doggo. Double checking gear there. It looks like he was trying to go for the utilizing his dual wield with the book and the knife. However, the Grand Helm actually gives sleep immunity, so the Cicadia. Oh, excuse me, my bad. I've confused myself. The Cicadia has stopped, so he actually, I believe he can get away with it unless he did have a diamond bracelet there, which otherwise he wouldn't be able to. So I'm not sure if he might be looking at that. Might be looking at that as that Valmafra as a threat. So he's going to try to go forward there. All right, the stop will connect there, so good play there on just kind of in this allowing King to be able to aggress with that Valmafra early. Now King's really gonna have to respond here because does he keep her and stop the entire time? His Mustadio will be able to free her with haste. Well, I'm not sure. Looks like Mace is gonna go in for the attack there. All right, that is the Ultima from the Ultimate Weapon landing there. Really chunky damage there. That Reyes will die there. Good killing blow there by King. That's the first KO of game 2. Alright, King is prepping a Hastasia there. That will, because the mod changes, haste will also cleanse stop and slow, so arguably Doggo should try to respond to that aggressively to prevent that, but he's got multiple options. He could even use Infernal Strike here, would actually be really good because he would be able to sap that MP out. But again, there's multitudes of things he can do here. Just that's one thing I could see potentially happening, where he can move his loot up as close as possible, 3 range, Infernal Strike, Mustadio. Because he is charging, he's going to take 50% more damage, and that should 100% get that MP to 0. And then the Hastasia will fail, which will keep Valmafra still stopped, and also preventing having to worry about dealing with haste. Now, I'm wondering if that's what he's looking at doing. Let's see. It looks like that's actually what he's going for. Okay, smart play there by Doggo. I think that is probably the best play he can make right now, just to prohibit unit action. With being a 4v4 situation, shutting that unit down to being able to act is pretty big. Alright, the Infernal Strike will of course connect. That will sap Mustadio's MP down to 0, and that will prevent Hastasia from casting, unless King can somehow get MP back to Mustadio beforehand, which I'm not entirely too sure if he has the means to do so. Yeah, his Reyes doesn't have any MP restoration, so looks like he's safe there in that regard. Alright, it looks like Doggo's going to go ahead and charge up a raise there. Now keep in mind the hit rate there is a little lower because Reyes has low faith, so he is kind of playing a little risky, but might be worth it. Hmm. That wouldn't be a bad idea. And keep in mind, if he gets that golem off there, which he will because it is a one tick, the weapon attacks from like the Onion Knight Izlude will get blocked, but the procs, so the ultimate weapon or the Lazaga from the Ice Rod will still connect. That is even a thing in vanilla too, so your weapon attacks can still be will still be blocked by Golem, but the actual spell cast still will go through. So it's not a bad option to mitigate the threat of that Onion Knight and the dual wield setup that he has, but it may or may not be the best option. It looks like Doggo's gonna go ahead and go the summon around set, which honestly might be good. Being able to kind of, even though he's down a unit, he does have a little bit of an advantage right now because of the pre-play that he made. If this raise connects, that would be even better. It does. Okay. All right, now we do have an Excalibur Reyes here, which means that because she has low bravery, her weapon attacks with Excalibur hit like a truck. I'm wondering if King is going to counterplay. I don't know if he can actually get. No, he doesn't have the mobility means to get in to engage that Alma. So being able to attack with Excalibur is really going to be Izlu. He's going to be able to target. But she still has Arts of War 2, so you could be looking at other options there as well. Does look like he's going to get in the front of Izlu, so there's going to be high block chance there, including class evasion. There will be a parry there that is successful there. It's a good block there by Doggo. The MP is... There is no MP on Mustadio, so that would be a failed stage cast. Okay, so right now, momentum-wise, Doggo definitely has it. If he keeps it up. Gotta be super careful if that counter lands. It's probably a dead props. Okay, could use one of the new abilities to have a, I believe it's a 35% chance to shred protect shell. It actually connects too. Wow, okay. 35% chance does succeed. Nice little chip damage and loss of mitigation there by Doggo. That also means that this Zodiark is going to actually hit Izlu harder. Oh man, okay, we actually are in for a show here, guys. That is a KO and 2 critical units there by Doggo. Super awesome play there, and he has the momentum to get another KO as well. Looks like he might be trying to risk the Holy Breath there. I think it's worth it though. If he can get double, that's it. There, that's one. That's nope. The parry. Oh. Oh man, that was clutch. Awesome play there by Doggo. That was definitely worth it. He did get one of his Holy Breaths blocked there, and because that Reyes has Reverie Shield, she did cut that holy damage in half. But she still survived thanks to her high bulk. But she's hanging by a thread, and it looks like Doggo has to cast times again there with Summon. Alright, looks like got a 1-tick Shiva there that's about to roll out. Alright. Alright, Reyes goes down. Balmafra is now in critical. This is not looking good for King at all. We are now entering the 11th action, and honestly, that's GG there because he has the flank and she's still stopped. And that's a KO. Winner goes to Doggo. 10th action. Alright, Doggo seeds game 2, 4-0. Very, very good play there by Doggo. Alright, let's get these guys back on the mic. Right, Doggo, you are back on, and let's get King back on, and King, you are back on. You guys there?
Here.
I'm here.
All right, GGC both. That was awesome to watch. Good plays by both of you.
I'm so happy I got Zodiac off.
Yeah, the low
I
tick.
bet.
You don't see it every day, but when you do, it's a spectacle. All right, well, with that being said here, since we had the game 2 complete there, that means that we'll do game 3, of course, and that means that since we've had a small map for game 2, the game 3 is the medium map, which is the Yuguewood, automatically. So let me just go ahead and update that on my end real quick. And of course, you guys can roster swap if need be. If Doggo takes the win here on Yuguewood, then he is the winner of this match. However, with that being said, if King gets the W for Yuguewood, we will go to Game 4, which is an automatic Golgolata Gallows, since we'll be in tiebreaker. This will be a 1-1. So, let's see what happens, guys.
Right.
I'll be back with you all momentarily. Do roster verification again. Be back with you all in about 4 minutes.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Okay, we are back again, game 3 on the Yuguewood. This is a deciding factor here as Doggo has taken game 2. If he can win this one, he is the match's winner for Series 7. However, if King can take this game, then we will push to game 4, which will be on Golgolata Gallows. I'm getting some lag here. Let's see if I can fix that real quick. Hopefully that's not as bad. Was a little laggy there a second ago. Alright, so Doggo's gonna go ahead and get a Dragon's Might off on his Izlu. The +1 power, speed, magic, and 5 bravery. Both players are actually using their main teams from game 1, so no changes here as far as unit swaps go. Alright, and Doggo's going to go ahead and advance his Reyes towards the middle of the map. This is also one of my favorite background musics, Antidote, so I'm really happy to hear this playing. Right, King's going to go ahead and get a Hermes Tonic off there, that's going to give him Floating Region on an Elmdor. And now we're swapping over to King's Stadio, charging up Hestasia in the stack. And he's going to do the turn 1 focus, additional power, speed, magic. And I'll end the turn. And now we're switching over to Doggo's Izlu, George. It's using that quality of life feature to check the jump time there. See if we can land that. Well, he will land that because Elmdor already went. I'm wondering if he's going to try to do another jump on Stadio like he did in game 1. He did have his his Izlu out there, so I'm kind of expecting a jump there just so that he can get him out of harm's way. Hey, Jan. Good to see you. Good to see you, bud. Jan is one of the lovely people in the Tactics League Discord, so glad to have you here, homie. Alright. Doggo's going to go ahead and commit to a Bulwark, just going to refresh Protect Shell and also get defending status for the rest of Izlu's turn. And now we're swapping over to Doggo's Ramza, aka Elroy. Alright, looks like Dog's gonna go ahead and get the tailwind out on the Reyes, good play there, get that extra speed. Alright, and now it's Judy's turn, aka Alma. Of course, she's got the low tick cast times there, and the reason why that is because she is I believe she is the last acting unit between all 8 units. So, oh, that's unfortunate. Especially with Aegis having such high potency, so that was a real unfortunate Aegis there. Just to kind of reiterate what I was talking about too, when your casters are slow and all other units have went, this also applies to the original game as well, your cast times tend to be shorter because there's less CT ticking back up to 100 when everyone's already went. So that's why her summons were also really short. That's also why that Zodiac was really fast game 2 comparatively, because everybody already went, so she was able to get that cast really fast. Now, hopefully King takes advantage of the fact that Aegis missed, and he's trying to get a re-raise out there, but first the Hestasia will land here. That should hit all 4. Yep. That will succeed. And now Reyes is going to re-raise herself. Yep. And now we'll see because she does have Luminous Robe, which gives her faith status. Which she normally has really low base faith, so it's really good to have that piece of gear that will help synergize with your spellcasting. And now we're hopping over to King's Islute, aka Admiral Drake. He's going to do another focus. He's stockpiling power there, guys. So keep in mind, I think when Drake gets his turn, he's going to pretty much one-shot anybody that doesn't block his attacks. So positioning is going to be very, very crucial here for Doggo. Let's keep in mind, King's Islute has the ultimate weapon and the Ice Rod weapons, and with the Chantage on top of that. So the Chantage in the mod guarantees your ability procs to activate with your weapons. So as long as they don't get blocked, they're guaranteed to cast. So that means the Ultima sword or Ultimate weapon's attack hits, then an Ultima goes off. Then the Ice Rod attack hits, then the Ice Rod's Blizzaga goes off. So you're pretty much dead unless you block or you have elemental mitigation. So, and you're only mitigating the ice element from the rod itself. The ultimate weapon has no element. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays. That's what I'm kind of predicting that King is doing there. In the meantime, King's gonna go ahead and charge up a Kikuichi Munji there on Doggo's Islute. Islute will react with Ward. It's gonna refresh his Protect Shell and Regen. Protect Shell is super critical, so it's really nice to have that constantly reactivating. That was a really good, nice good burst damage there by Elmdor with the Kiku. Alright. King is advancing his Mustadio to the middle of the map. I guess he's potentially looking at Meteor since he's got time magics. He's out of range for another Kiku, and he can't Iaido it otherwise, so... Now another thing he could be looking at is stuff like Slow, right? Oh, that's exactly what he's on. Alright. I was thinking more SlowJa, but the instacast Slow is pretty nice too. Slow and Haste in the mod are instacast single target abilities. So being able to get that instant, especially when they're about to act, you could potentially force a unit to go second, depending on where CT's sitting at prior to that. Alright, so Doggo's Reyes isn't in weapon range of Mustadio. Not sure if he's looking at potentially doing that. He might be. Looks like that's going to be the case there. Alright, so we'll try to take advantage of the Vert Sealant. I'm not sure. That's going to be a risky Holy Breath, though. I'm not sure if it's really wise to do that right now. That honestly might be. I have a lot of... I don't think he really has a lot of solid plays here he can make. He could go for the book and knife dual-wield attack, taking advantage of the book's 3 range, and then following up with the 3 range knife because of shenanigans. Might not be a bad idea, but definitely status check before you commit to it so that you know you can get the stop. This Reyes also has the Chantage as well. Alright, that will connect. Good play there by Doggo. Honestly, I think stop in the All-Stars format is actually even stronger than it is in Standard because there's less units, because there's not one less unit. So being able to prohibit a unit from being able to act, I think it's honestly like low-key, like top-tier maneuvering. Especially as they're about to go anyways, being able to shut them down and being able to have that follow-up if you can get it is really good. Okay, so that Odin can only hit Mustadio from there. I don't know if he's want to risk that 19% chance to KO. What about that Zodiark, though? I mean, we do love our Zodiarks. If he can safely get that off, or even honestly, even if he doesn't safely get it off, just the fact that the threat's there is really strong. But that turn list actually gives us a lot of information, even when we briefly saw it. So that means the turn list shows that Mustadio will go soon, like before that Zodiark would go off. So it is definitely not a good skill to cast right now. So I'm glad that Doggo took the extra effort to pan over to check the menu. before he committed to that, because then that was probably going to be a dead on him. But good play there by Doggo. It's definitely worth, especially when you're playing against another player, to take a few extra seconds and kind of check where the turn list is with abilities, especially when they're cast time, because magics honestly are some of the strongest things in this mod. Like they could be very much countered, like we see in the game 2 with the Infernal Strike, stopping that Mustadio from getting a haste off. Like, they have their weaknesses too, but they're also really strong in the mod. So I'm really glad to see that Doggo made that extra effort to avoid doing a Zodiac just for the lulz, and making a smarter play to make sure his cast would go off beforehand. Alright, so he's going to go ahead and charge up a take aim there on Mustadio. Looks like Mustadio is Doggo's preferred threat right now, and honestly, I get it. Elmdor stopped. Stop isn't that long of a status in the mod, but it's still prohibiting effectively like 2 turns for that unit. His CT is frozen, it's not like it's reset, so he will, like, when he resumes, he'll resume back at the CT he was. But the fact that he's kind of temporarily out of play is still really big. Zephyros says, stop slow OP, especially stop. Yeah, I think stop is good in general, but I think it's actually stronger here in All Stars because there's only 4 units. So, because that also means that, like, there's effectively less secondary skill sets that you can equip that you normally have the 5 for. So that comes down more towards like having mitigation through like ribbon, or having the nimble movement ability, which also prevents stop. I hate to say it, but I think we just got another DC there. Both clocks aren't moving, and there was a cast that went off that didn't complete. I'm gonna give this a couple seconds here, but I do believe that that is what happened. And that'd be super unfortunate if so. Go ahead and stop my stopwatch here. Not sure why we're having some issues here tonight, but unfortunately, playing games online can sometimes cause a hiccup. I do think we had a DC there as well. So let me go ahead and grab these guys and get them back on the mic. 1 second. Okay, Doggo, I have you unmuted and undeafened, and King, I have you unmuted and undeafened. Are you guys there? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Alright, yep. Looks like we had a DC there as well. 4-4 DC, 1158. Alright, let me go ahead and log that.
I had a big setup coming in too.
Alright, so follow normal resolutions there. Again, because we are at the beginning of the game, there hasn't been any deaths yet, and because all units are alive. What I'm going to do this go around specifically, because we already had a game cleared, is we're going to go ahead and do a rematch on the same map. So normally what I would do is, if the game time has been 5 minutes or less, it's an automatic restart. The clock is, we're pushing 12 minutes here, but because of the nature where we are in the set, it's probably safer to go ahead and just do that instead of going to do Gallows and then potentially having to do Gallows twice in a row, depending on the outcome. Because if King wins Gallows the first time, or the game 4, for example, then we have to tiebreaker again, Gallows again, right? We have to do it twice in a row. So I'm trying to avoid necessarily doing that. So let's go ahead and do game. We're going to just restart game 3 at full. So give me 1 second. I'm going to make a extra note of that on my end. Alright, gents, you guys can go ahead and reconnect, and we will need to redo roster verification because we are doing a full restart here. So, viewers, give me a moment here. We'll do about 3 minutes. You guys go ahead and try to figure out now if you want to keep or swap. But viewers, I'll be back with you in about 3 minutes. Okay?
All right, hosting.
Alright, we are doing Game 3 replay here. We had a networking issue with the prior Game 3, so we're going to go ahead and restart from scratch. There is one team change because they're allowed to change because it is replay, so this time Doggo has actually swapped out his... shoot. I forgot who it was now. I mentioned it. Basically, Rafa's been swapped in this time around for Elroy, which would have been Ramza. So I'm really interested in seeing how he's going to play Sky Mantra skill set, which is vastly different than what's in the original game. Basically, it is a single target, guaranteed one hit to remove certain statuses depending on the skill that you use. And it also does damage if that status was removed. So basically, for example, the Heaven's Wrath skill, it targets Protect and Shell. So if a target has Protect Shell, which most do, then it removes Protect Shell and it does 40% of their max HP and damage as well. It's a really good opener skill to follow up with if you need to get it that way. So I'm really interested in seeing if he's going to change his dynamic up because he swapped her in. I believe she's also a Sage and not her normal Sky Seer job. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. Yes, she is a Sage, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there. Alright, Doggo's gonna go ahead and advance Islu to mid-map and conserve CT by waiting. Alright, we're going to charge up an Aegis on Islude. Okay. Doggo's going to advance Rafa to center point map. Aegis should connect on Islude. It does succeed. Project Shell, Haste Region, and Re-Raise has been applied. And now it's shifting over to King's Reyes' turn, who has the Excalibur. The Excalibur gives initial slow. That's why that slow just fell off a second ago. It's meant to be that way because it is a hard-hitting weapon when utilized correctly. So it's kind of a balance means to, if you're going to have this really hard-hitting weapon, you aren't able to get your turn as fast initially. So now she actually got that off before the Hestasia landed, which Hestasia also would have cleansed that slow as well. But looks like King's going to have a little plans here. He's going to charge up a region. It's insta-cast as well. Alright, region will succeed on Mustadio and Reyes. That's a whopping quarter health recovery. And of course, the bigger health pool, the larger the heal. And Hestasia will succeed on King. That's full haste on his stack. Now we're switching over to Doggo's Islu, George. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and push George into King's stack here. He should be committing to jump because otherwise that is probably a dead Islu. Actually, it would be a dead Islu because of positioning. Now, he has re-raise, but keep in mind that like he's in the neck deep of King's stack, so he should be committing to that jump. And based on turn list, the only person he can successfully land the jump on is Reyes because she's already burned the return. So it looks like that's going to be the case there. And now we're swapping over to King's Islude, Admiral Drake. Alright, King has shifted his Islude over to the, I guess it'd be the left side of the map, and has went ahead and committed to a focus. And now it is Elmdor's turn. Now, keep in mind that Sword Spirit, which is more or less just the Ido, he's got access to the same Idos as any samurai would. Wonder if he was going to look at doing something like Zenmato or something, but he's actually going to go ahead and commit to get into Kiku Uchimunji. I will see the 288 there. However, the Kiku will shatter, so he won't be able to cast it again because it is a limited weapon. So nice burst there, burst damage there by King with the Elmdor. Now, I would say that as long as Mustadio can get in range of that Rafa, he should, because Rafa does have faith. That means that Time Magics is going to guarantee, as long as she's not status immune, so if it is a status magic, so he should be focusing that Rafa down, because that Rafa may actually be a real serious threat in a second if he leaves her unchecked. And also take into the fact that Doggo had positioned her middle of the map earlier, allowing Mustadio to get in range. It looks like he's not going for that. That was going to charge by Graviga for the looks of it. However, yeah, Reyes goes next, so Doggo should be trying to take advantage of that, the fact that he's charging up again. I'm not sure if King didn't check the turn list there beforehand. Doggo might not even be committing to it, I'm not sure though. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. So what we just seen there was the fact that the targeted tile was so low, technically, that Reyes had actually just attacked the floor, effectively. So when you use ranged weapons like that with the book, or even the gun, you gotta be really careful of the vert that you're targeting if you're gonna be like off shooting, because a situation like that can happen where you end up shooting the floor effectively. That was a decent misplay there by Doggo. I don't think it's an end-all, but definitely something that King should try to take advantage of now that Reyes is also within range too. Now it looks like Doggo's looking at casting YoshnJa, which it puts their HP down to 1 if it connects. But Toja wouldn't be bad either. Honestly, Toja might be even more deadly in this case, as long as he can get the cast off. He's got safe cast with Toja, so any of his vortex can go off safely. I think what he needs to do is he needs to target Reyes, because jaw magics don't actually hit allies, and instead be able to get the cross shape on Mustadio and Elmdor together and try for a double toad. That would be backbreaking if he can land it. Okay, so we go ahead and focus on Elmdor there. I think he could have landed the T-shape there. I could be wrong though. Maybe I'm missing a vert on the spell. Alright, let's see if this YoshnJa connects, or YoshnJa connects. Was a 55% chance. Yep, there is the ally stack damage there. Honestly, that would have been really clutch. I didn't even think about that. YoshnJa is AoE, so the fact that he had Reyes position there, and if he had followed up with any of the damaging jaw magics, that actually could have been a double kill. That would have been like high IQ play there. I didn't even see that coming. But I mean, I guess it was a good thing Doggo did position there. I'm just kind of worried that King may follow up and get the KO on Reyes, but he might not. King might not be seeing Reyes as a real threat right now. I'd be super careful moving Judy too far up though, because keep in mind she does not have Protect Shell. She does have an 8 Arcane Defense and Defense boost, which is kind of like a pseudo Protect Shell, and those are permanent. But just having an extra, she doesn't have that extra layer of mitigation either right now. So I think where he positioned her is fine. He's just a little shy of down in Mustadio. He does have the Confuse out on Elmdor too though. I think he might be just trying to net KOs while he can. Alright, this is going to commit to, I believe that was Leviathan. Alright, let's see what King does. He does have Faith status with the Luminous Robe here on his Reyes. She does have white... Excuse me, sorry. She does have white magics as a secondary skill set, alongside, I believe it is Dragon. I think she's on her Dragon job. Actually, excuse me, I want to correct myself. She's on a Knight because she's running a Excalibur, so... so she doesn't have access to Dragon. She has Arts of War and white magics. So I can see if you can get a fast either Asuna. Actually, I wouldn't even worry about Asuna at this point. I would actually be focused on getting Cura Plus out towards Mustadio and Elmdor, because there is threatening damage coming in. I would be focusing more on that, especially because the YoshnJa damage honestly could be something that Doggo can follow, but he's not gonna do that. He's actually gonna go ahead and charge up what should be Holy, considering that that's the only damaging spell in White Magic. So will be a one-shot on Rafa, especially because it's Faith versus Faith, as long as Doggo does not have the time to respond to that. And with that being said, King probably needs to go ahead and see if he can look at Reyes more so. I think that might be what he's aiming for. He can't get to Alma. Now, there's something that's super important I want to highlight here. King's Islud is too far down vertically to actually weapon attack up, because striking weapons can only attack 2 vert and then 3 down. So he actually won't be able to attack her because she's too far up. With this Ionite variant, that would be a lot of damage, but he's sadly not going to be able to push that damage because of where he's positioned. So, arguably, his probably best bet is to go ahead and maybe cast Thundara if he can get it fast enough, just to get an extra chip damage out. So, like, that seems to be kind of what he's doing. I would have aimed it more towards Reyes and Rafa, but being able to hit that Rafa still is going to be some nice damage there. He's making the best use of his actions there, so it's a good play there. I do think that Infernal Strike might be Doggo's best case here to reduce damage. This is going to go for Sanguine there, so she doesn't have Mana Shield, so that will cut into health, but that will not prevent the cast. Alright, Reyes' Holy will connect. That will be a dead Rafa. Alright, this first KO of this Game 3 replay. Alright, and Leviathan's going out right now. Now, I don't believe the Leviathan damage is enough to kill Elmdor, which will mean that he'll be free from Confuse. So that, like, it will get Mustadia, but it could go either way, depending on how this plays out. That's a nice 4-stack damage there, though. That was definitely nice. I like to see that. Taking advantage of that summon's large AoE and verticality. Elmdor is critical, but he is not out, so he's able to make any plays here. We're currently 3-3, Game 3. Alright, looks like he's going to go ahead and charge up Cheerage Raid in there, instacast. Nice solid damage, 336 across the board there on Reyes and Islud. Reyes isn't critical, Islud's ward will reactivate again. Russians protect Shell region. That nice region there, look at that nice 162 tick, definitely was nice. Good recovery there. He's no longer out of critical, got a nice little restore there. He's able to continue the fight. Alright, so the Hestage's haste is now falling off here. And now we're shifting over to Doggo's turn. Doggo definitely needs to net a KO here. He's got a lot of options though. I would arguably say that going for the Holy Breath now might be the play, because of where they're positioned. He's pretty much guaranteed, RNG dependent, to get multiple hits out. There we go. I'm hoping that's the play that he's going to be making there. Apologies for getting any sound lag that's coming in from Dogma Stream. Mute. Take down a little bit. Okay, so we got a trade there. The Doggo went ahead and did a mowdown. That is a successful KO on King's Reyes within the mowdown's recall damage. down Doggo's Reyes. So, okay. We got a odd 2v2 going on right now. I do think that, yeah, I was gonna say I think Alma's actually the priority here. Now she has re-raise. Oh my god, man, these frontal blocks have been crazy this series. Blocks and parries, oh my. Okay, well, as long as Doggo's cast times are looking good, honestly, he has good recovery measures here. Especially because of that parry, like, that parry was pretty huge. Oof. I don't know about doing that, boss. I might want to arise maybe Rafa instead, depending on her CT. Keep in mind the dead units CT are still ticking. So if you can catch them before they hit 100, and depending on your cast time, you can actually res them before they go, which is probably the best measure you can do. But I'm not sure how the CT is on these dead units right now. You'd have to double check their times. Okay, he's going to commit to a holy there. Yep. Doggo is definitely targeting Islud. Smart idea. We're going to get that down. That Onion Knight Islud is super dangerous. Hopefully no counter. Oh! Yeah. Okay. We have... Oh man. This is a 1v1 for sure now. Alright, it is Alma versus Elmdor. This is going to decide everything at this point. So, keep in mind, even though Alma has re-raise, she's the last unit standing. If Elmdor gets the KO, that's it. She can't re-raise in the middle of the fight. So, this is... But also, keep in mind too, like, Doggo's Alma's no joke. Like, she was doing a lot of damage against Shell, so... Elmdor is injured. She doesn't have Protect Shell, but she does have Arcane Defense and Defense Boost, so she has that, like, permanent Protect Shell. To answer, to Luluck, hopefully I didn't butcher your name there, is this multiplayer via Parsec? No, this is, it is multiplayer, but we're actually playing through the PPSSPP's built-in ad hoc server relay feature, which just came out not long ago. So this allows you to play ad hoc games through the emulator without needing like a VPN or Parsec even. You can do everything within the emulator directly. It's really awesome. It's super easy to set up. Elixir, okay. Smart play there by King. Like I was saying, Elmdor was already injured, so if he even tried to move it in, like, that'd be dangerous. But also, I forgot, Doggo's Islud had a re-raise prior from Aegis, so this is actually, like, this is really big. I think Doggo has this game. Honestly, I think he has this. He just got to get enough damage to down Elmdor before he goes again. He needs to check the turn order. Check the turn. Yeah, I was going to say, he's going to go beforehand, so we can't do that. Otherwise, that's a dead on him, because all King has to do is get in position and then smack her, and she's dead. However, with that being said, I would check the movement tiles on Elmdor. If he can get a cast and run far enough where she can't get targeted, then that's a wrap. I think Elmdor barely survives this, between this and jump. I think that if he went the holy route and then ran away, as long as Elmdor couldn't get to her, that would have been the game. But I could be wrong. Let's see what happens. Alright, Shiva is going off. If we get the immobilize, no immobilize, but that is cut through the mana shield. Mana shield's been depleted, 30 HP damage taken. Okay, this is big. Jump will not land on Elmdor beforehand, so King really has to play this super, super careful. He's already moved, so that means he's out of jump positioning. So that's good. Doesn't worry about taking an extra 3 300 so damage. He really needs to get that Alma down, but she's also really tanky. Alright, looks like he's going to go ahead for, I believe it's a Shura. Yep, Sphere Blade. She has KO immunity, so that's not happening. The one time Ashura's been broken. Jump will miss since he's moved. And now it's Islu's turn. I think Doggo is still safe here. I think this is Doggo's game. But I don't know if I don't think he could do enough damage here. Yeah, he's still shy, so even though there is no Protect Shell on Elm Door, it's just that like Sanguine Sword's not going to do enough because it already does a percentage of damage. For really looking at getting damage out, he needs to focus on doing basic attacks at this point. But he's also to the side. So the Sanguine's not bad. He's playing the long game. I'm not gonna hate it. Getting that recovery up. Keep in mind though, Doggo's units are in Eido range or Sword Spirit range again. Alma is barely hanging by a thread. She does have re-raise, so still kind of playing it safe because even if she dies, also she's not the last unit alive, she'll get back up. We have a couple units at 0 tick on their KO timers too. That means they're about to disappear on the battlefield for good. Oof. Man. Honestly, you know, go for it. Go for the 1-tick summons. I think he has this anyways. Doggo does. Even with that being said, like the only way I think the king can realistically come out of this. So what would have to happen is you have to get something like Kotetsu or Confuse Murmasa off. I think Islu is not immune to those statuses. Play some lucky RNG. He gets one of the statuses off. It kills Alma because she's already barely alive. She still has the re-raise, but then it statuses out Eido, or statuses out Islu. It's still, like, I think this is still either way we look at Doggo's game, though. But King is definitely trying his hardest. Do it for the Chiri Drayden. Almost oh, that's huge. That's huge. Okay, so we have a failed cast there. We have a failed cast there. Protection just fell off on Islu. Everyone is taking now full unmitigated damage. Still, I do think that he has this. Now keep in mind that's big, that MP. So Sanguine Sword has an MP cost in the mod. He's got this though. He's got this. If he goes for the trade, that's GG. He's gonna be down. He's gonna win this 1 unit up, 1-0. He had. I will say Doggo has this at this point. He can do this Abyssal Blade, and that's it. That's what he's committing to. 28 actions. 1-0. Doggo is the victor of Series 7. What an awesome game. Let's get these guys back on the mic. Alright, we got Doggo and King. Doggo and King, you guys there?
I'm here.
Here.
Alright, that was so awesome to see. Unfortunately, we had the replay, but honestly, you know, I dig it. That might have honestly been the better game. Who knows? But man,
Maybe.
maybe. But that was good. That was some good stuff by both of you guys. Awesome tactics from both of you guys. Really down to the wire, especially just with the 1-2. King, you played your hardest to win it, and I could see from your moves that you were trying your best to deal with an Alma and an Islu. That Alma having that re-raise was tough because I was like telling the spectators earlier, even if she dies, she's getting back up if she's not the last unit alive.
Right.
So I assume you were probably weighing in on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super fair. So, but no, so you played really well there, Doggo. You played really well, just trying to keep that pressure up on Helm Door. King, really good play on that elixir earlier. I was afraid that you were going to charge in already injured, but you made a real smart play there and getting him top back up before you did so. So real good play there by you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I won't lie, I was definitely scared at certain points, namely when we got the Gravija off, but then it missed.
Yeah.
Oh, the
so,
Graviga,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, so that was a bit of a relief
Yeah, that was
on my part.
Honestly, I didn't even think about it when it went off, that because of where you were positioned, it had the AoE, like the AoE damage go off, and it ended up hitting King's units too, and I was like, something it just completely passed over my head. And then, like, fortunately for you, Doggo, it completely dodged, and then unfortunately for King, it ended up injuring his units.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
Yeah, but
really, the whole match was just me playing around haste and see if I can like still make some major plays with like the low amount of moves I have.
Yeah, no, you did really well there. I was telling the viewers earlier, haste span 25%. It's definitely not as strong as it was in vanilla. It still will help beat out like near CTs and stuff, but still taking the fact that you didn't have it outside of Aegis, you played it pretty well, and trying to like counteract that, trying to avoid getting like extra turns on you and stuff like that. But no, all around a really good set. It was unfortunate we had the two DCs that kind of prolonged the series and stuff like that, but either way, I'm glad that we did get a complete there. Doggo is the winner of Series 7, so congrats to you, Doggo.
Congratulations, man. GG.
But again, with that even being said, King, you played a really good match between all games, so also bravo to you as well. Like, you're definitely on the up and up. I know the last time we talked during the last series, you were talking about trying to be one of those top dogs and competitors, and I see that growing more and more as you're playing. So don't give up. You're definitely gonna get that W real soon, and I'm really seeing that the plays that you're making it's really getting like to the next level. So keep working at it, okay?
Appreciate it.
I definitely see it. Like, your team, it's definitely a good team. I had to, as you can tell by the match, I had to think long and hard to.
I know. I just couldn't get anything set up. But yeah, those units, if I can get them set up, they're definitely one-shotting people.
Yeah, and that's evident with the counter on one of your units that has like Ultima.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my Islud and my Reyes both, they're dangerous.
Oh, for sure.
I could tell. Like,
oh yeah,
really had to make every move count.
Yeah, and honestly, when we're playing in competitive format, definitely important to make every move count, especially having limited actions too. So I'm glad you guys really put a lot of thought in the plays you were making, and really, I felt like you guys were giving it your all the way through the set. So I do appreciate that, and it's glad to have another live stream match here. We had several viewers, still got viewers in the YouTube stream watching, so I appreciate you all there as well. Zephyroth especially, because you've been here from almost all the way through, if not the entire match. So thank you for hanging out with us all the way to the end. And anyone that popped in the Discord as well, thank you guys for coming in as well. Jan SSG popped in YouTube as well. Lulu UK, I think that's what it was. Thank you for coming in as well, hanging out with us. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got the series knocked out finally, and I will I'll look forward to Series 8 here. I need to get with Countess to confirm, but I do plan to have Academy Series 5 this Thursday, as long as she's okay to do so. So that's actually going to be a kind of like a primer of how to get into your first live melee match. So for anyone that's watching, interested in playing Tactics PvP online, definitely one of the things you don't want to miss, because we're going to go from the beginning to the end of how you get set up and stuff like that with that, using the relay feature that these guys were using to play online, and then trying to connect with someone online and having a battle as well, a live stream battle. So we'll see how that goes. Definitely stay tuned for that. Like I said, I'm not 100% on it yet, but I do plan on trying to at least have it happen. So but yeah, that will be conclusion for this evening. Thank you, Doggo and King, once again. Awesome match all the way through.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Same here. I can't wait to take the Jetsons to the next level.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Thank you guys once again, and I will catch you all later. Enjoy your evening, and take care.
Good night.
Bye bye.
All right. And viewers, YouTube and Discord, thank you guys again for hanging out with us as well. You all take care as well, and I'll see you on the next one.